My journey of following Christ began as a child. I went through childhood, adolescence, and adulthood knowing that Christ was with me, but I still needed to live my life. I still needed to have experiences that would teach me things that would be valuable later in life when I returned to that father figure that Christ's Father portrays. I think there is permissive earthly choices that the Father recognizes as having value so that when that individual comes to spiritual maturity, they have the earthly experience to interact with the people that they are serving and interacting with. Oftentimes, I was not aware of my purpose in life over the years. I went through many jobs thinking that this was the right job for me, but those jobs would be cut short. I have over 20 jobs on my LinkedIn profile. The same with relationships. I have 2 marriages and additional relationships behind me. Those intimate relationships gave me the experience as education to understand human relationships and how deep they can get. Now, I am in a more realized journey, a journey that keeps me close to the Father, regardless of my choices. My desires to sin no longer exist, and secular choices that we often make are no longer a priority for me. Over the many years, I have gradually noticed that the world is hoping for something or someone to come along and rescue them from the day-to-day routines of the life that we are given today. Personally, I feel that the hope of the world is significant enough to lift me above everyone else. Not as a prideful position to be in, but in a feeling of humility. It is accepting a role that I am not qualified to do. I have often read that God uses people that are not the most qualified to do the most significant tasks. So now, at the age of 55, and many mistakes in the years past, I feel a higher probability of success in whatever it is that the Father is tasking me to do. Simply put, I am basically an obedient vessel, allowing the Father to use me as He will. If He chooses to use me as the return of Christ, then that is a role that I reluctantly accept, but accept wholeheartedly. With my years of experience and years of education, I am looking for that last assignment. Personally, I feel that the role of being the return of Christ encompasses all of my experiences and educations that I have acquired. I inventoried my life months ago trying to discover what the Father would have me to do. Part of me is hearing Him say to be His Son, and that would entail His return. I have read where Jesus says many will come claiming to be Him, such as Matthew chapter 24 and other chapters. So I am being cautious and feeling that I am being called to be Him. But in the end, He returns, and in that I may be Him. Religion is transforming. Catholicism is changing some of its centuries-old beliefs regarding Mary as a co-redeemer. In 2 to 3 years, what will be of Catholicism? Will it become the perfect bride many think that it is? Even other denominations have imperfections, so religion is not about what it is today, but what it will ultimately become. There may be new denominations or methods of religion that bring current and new believers much spiritually closer than years past. As I had mentioned, I accepted Christ at a young age in elementary school. I was in a small, old church. I was surrounded by family and just a small group of people, so it was basically just an intimate congregation. Everybody pretty much knew everybody else. We basically kept to ourselves. We weren't very, outgoing. We lived a private life, pretty much. We weren't too involved with the church other than inside the services with choir service and Sunday schools. I spent my junior high school years in a Christian school. So I had weekly Bible classes, I had chapel services. So I was always, staying abreast of the Christian belief. And so, my education and understanding of the Christian belief is fairly strong. I lived, or went to school, basically just interacting with other Christian students my age. We had a few Christian mentors that were, older students in high school. We went to a Christian summer camp, and again, we were surrounded by, Christian mentors and counselors. And so I just had a good, well-rounded Christian education at the right stage of my life. It was that age where that I was absorbing, learning at such a great pace. Went on into public high school, and at that same time, my mother had taken on a weekend job, and so we could not really attend church consistently on the weekends. So we did take a break from church attendance for several years, and so I did have to basically call upon my Christian education from the younger years, to help me to make the right decisions as I got older. I was still in high school whenever I signed up for the delayed entry program to join the Army. And I did that my junior year of high school. And so, I knew that after graduation, I would be going into the military. And I had requested Germany on my contract. So I knew that I would be, going overseas for my duty station. I had chosen intelligence analyst as my job. So I wanted to basically just stay abreast of what was going on around the world. And so the intelligence field provided a great deal of resources to stay abreast of a lot of the things that were going on. And so during that time, I did participate in the ending of the Cold War and the reunification of East and West Germany. Shortly thereafter, Desert Shield and Desert Storm started, and we did go to Saudi Arabia for that. We returned to Germany, and after that, the Croatia and Serbia civil war was taking place, and so we were staying informed of that conflict as well. I did meet my first wife during that time, and so we dated throughout the remainder of my tour in Germany. After my tour ended, I came back to the United States, and I attended UNC Greensboro for part of the semester. And halfway through the semester, I was told that I would not get the training that I was anticipating. And so I ended up re-enlisting into the United States Coast Guard for public affairs, which was basically photography and journalism. And it was during the Coast Guard tour that I was medically discharged. And so I had to come out of the service. And me and my wife, we were together for 11 years. And during that time, we had 2 boys. And we separated when the boys were 5 and 6 years old. And we just went our separate ways. At the end of our marriage, I returned back to the Protestant church, and I was with them pretty consistently for many years. And so I was attending pretty much every single week. And I was also going back to school, so I did go to college for a longer period. I got my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, and also my MBA. So I was able to successfully complete several years of college. And I was working on and off during that time. And also during my MBA, I did meet my second wife, and we were together for a total of 5 years. And after the marriage ended, we still stayed in touch, and saw each other socially for a length of time. Towards the end of my second marriage, COVID hit the world, and a lot of the church congregations had stopped meeting in person. But there was one church that did continue meeting, and that was the Latter-day Saint Church. And so I did start attending that service. And I was quickly assigned a couple of missionaries to teach me what their belief was. And I was also asked to be baptized within their congregation. And so I was baptized on Easter weekend of 2020. And my second wife and I, we separated Easter of 2020. During the time after we divorced until 2025, my spiritual journey has continued to grow. And so, this calling, to possibly be a contender for the return of Christ, it has become a gradually stronger and stronger feeling. And so it's something that I meditate on. It's something I'm always conversing with the Father about. I'm reading scripture frequently. I am writing down notes of spiritual topics and things. I am rereading scripture, trying to make sense of what I'm going through. And so it's not something that I just dreamed up one day and, I'm trying to fulfill. It's something that has been with me for a very long time. And my medical condition, it actually, it's conditioned for, religion and hyper religiosity that lends to kind of promoting this feeling. And so the things that I've been through over the years, I've been hospitalized in the past, but with all of those hospitalizations, it was always a Christian belief purpose of going into the hospital. It was always something spiritual in nature. And so there was never any fear about going into the hospital. It was basically just a forced rest. If you don't rest, the Father will make you rest. And I just wasn't feeling like that I needed to rest. And so earlier this year in 2025, I wrote down in a journal that I am the return of Christ. And I wrote that, multiple times, over and over again. And so it's almost like a muscle memory, mindset. It's not something that I get emotional over or, debate with anybody about. This is just an internal feeling that is so strong that it does not really influence emotion or actions or anything. It's just a muscle memory, mindset. And so today I'm just going through the actions of attending church and trying to get involved and trying to fulfill the life that the return of Christ would participate in. And again, I don't know what's going to be like in the near future or beyond. And so it's just an ongoing, purpose and pursuit of this mindset. As of today, early in this journey, I feel confident that the Father is using me and will continue to do so because I choose to be His vessel. The world has martyrs, so I don't think the Father will place me in a martyr's role. This is a series of choices that, like Jesus' ministry, was just below society's radar. But Jesus had a roadmap to the cross, and I have a roadmap to live as long as I possibly can.